Oh, Justin, you're awake. You made it. Have a seat. Have a coffee. You need some. Wakey, wakey time. Thanks very much for taking my invitation to have a little breakfast. I know you're just back from your vacation in Costa Rica, and there's a few things you might not have noticed while you were gone. Starting with the price of coffee, it's up 14% in 1 year. Not just coffee, Justin. Bacon is up 8%. Milk to put in your coffee, it's up 7%. Bread's up 15%. And the butter on the bread, that's up 17%, Justin. Eggs, up 16%. So the average Canadian can't even dream of going on a vacation right now to Costa Rica. They're just dreaming about, well, affording food. In fact, there's a poll out, Justin, you might find interesting. About a quarter of Canadians are now borrowing money just for essentials like eating. Justin, can you imagine taking out a loan so that you can eat? Remember when you said that you were borrowing money so that Canadians didn't have to? Well, now Canadians are borrowing up a storm because they can't afford the higher prices that you've imposed on them, right? You know, it's called inflation, or just inflation. I like to put your name in there because it gets your attention. Here's how it happens. You print money to pay for your deficits, $400 billion. You increase the money supply in our economy by about 20% in 2 years. More money chasing fewer goods, that equals higher prices. Let me break it down for you. Imagine there's an economy with 10 pieces of bread and $10. Well, it would be $1 for each piece of bread. If you double the number of dollars, Justin, to 20, you don't get twice as rich. It's just that $20 to buy 10 pieces of bread is now $2 for each piece. In other words, you've doubled the price by doubling the money. Well, that's what happens when you create cash without creating the stuff that cash buys. So we have 10% food price inflation in Canada today. 10%. And overall, our inflation rate is near a 40-year high. So what are your plans to do about it? Well, you want to further increase the carbon tax by 200%. Justin, gas prices have been hovering near all-time highs already. And you want to continue running these monster deficits that will bid up the price of goods. And finally, you want to make food more expensive by forcing farmers to cut back on the fertilizer that they use to make our food by 30%. Now, I want you to stop and think, how does it help the environment? If you force farmers to reduce their food production for every acre of land, they're going to have to use a bigger footprint of land to make the same amount of food, which forces them, of course, to drive longer distances in those big tractors and combines and burn more fuel. Beyond that, because they would not be competitive with global food prices, we'd have to import more food. And that food would have to be transported by ship, train, and truck, all burning fuel as well. And by the way, Justin, didn't you notice during COVID how reckless it was for us to depend on the rest of the world for our essentials? Shouldn't we be producing our own food here? We have among the most abundant supply of farmland of any country on planet Earth. And you want us to import more food, excuse me, it's so crazy, I can't even say it. You want us to import more food from other countries with poorer environmental standards? Justin, it doesn't make sense. That's why I invited you here. I wanted to get your head back in the game here. So this is what I'm proposing. Why don't you cancel the attack on our farmers, get rid of this fertilizer mandate, axe the carbon tax so that they can produce our food more affordably, and we can repatriate more of our food and other production back to this country rather than sending our jobs and production to faraway polluting lands. Why don't you stop printing money to pay your bills by bringing in a pay-as-you-go law that requires government find $1 of savings for every new dollar of spending? That way, you won't have to put all this inflationary cash into the economy. And I know that's hard. You have to be disciplined to find savings, Justin. But maybe we should replace you with a single mom who knows how to run a budget. Right now, Justin, single moms are able to run budgets better than you do. And unfortunately, lately they've been doing that by making a lot of sacrifices that you've imposed on them. And there are single moms who are literally cutting back on their kids' diets, putting water in their kids' milk because they can't afford the 10% year-over-year food inflation that you have imposed on them. So why don't you listen to my common sense ideas? Let's tackle inflation, make paychecks go further, stop creating cash and start creating more of what cash buys. In other words, Justin, wake up and smell